The Master's Mysteries. Tales of Magical Mastery. Episode 75. Continuing from the previous episode, Black Fox, upon hearing Liu Fengyi's words, let a drop of blood fall onto that pitch-black ancient sword. But this amount of blood wasn't enough. Unexpectedly, as soon as his blood touched the ancient sword, it was immediately absorbed into it. The sword's body started to tremble strangely, and a chilling coldness followed. Want to drink? Huh, fine. Upon hearing Liu Fengyi's reminder, Black Fox became determined. His fingertip transformed into a blade, and he promptly cut a long gash on the back of his hand while holding the sword. Then fresh blood instantly gushed out, all flowing onto the blade of the ancient sword. Strangely enough, not a single drop of this blood was wasted. It was all absorbed by the ancient sword. How much do you want? I'll give you as much as you need. As the ancient sword absorbed more and more blood, its tremors intensified, and it began to emit a faint black aura. Next, the black aura solidified, becoming increasingly substantial. After an unknown amount of time had passed, Black Fox suddenly noticed that those black auras had formed a massive ferocious beast above his head. This ferocious beast exuded an extremely malevolent aura. Not to mention Black Fox, even the people behind him felt their hairs stand on end from the malevolent aura, illustrating the sheer fierceness of the sword's killing intent. At this point, the sword's tremors became even more violent, and Black Fox was struggling to hold on. Helplessly, he twisted his wrist and plunged the ancient sword into the nearby rock, exerting all his bodily strength on it. However, this action triggered a fierce resistance from the ancient sword. An overwhelmingly strong killing intent erupted, nearly toppling Black Fox. Even more terrifying, the malevolent aura invaded his body, and Black Fox could barely control his own thoughts. He was on the verge of drawing the ancient sword and going on a killing spree. Just at this moment, Liu Fengyi took action. His spiritual energy surged in his hands as he forcefully pressed down on Black Fox's shoulder. Focus your mind. Don't react to the malevolent aura. You need to be even more ruthless than it. This force was immense, not only instantly suppressing the surging malevolent aura, but also pinning Black Fox to the ground. Come on. With Liu Fengyi's assistance and reminder, Black Fox's determination and fighting spirit grew even stronger. He roared and directed all his strength toward the ancient sword. This turned out to be quite a situation as the malevolent aura released by the ancient sword collided with Black Fox's power, resulting in a sudden explosion in midair. Putting aside Black Fox, who was determined to subdue the ancient sword, let's talk about what was happening outside. In a village at the foot of the mountain, a lively grand celebration was underway. At this moment, the village was filled with the deafening sounds of drums, colorful decorations, thunderous applause, and piercing cheers, repeatedly elevating the atmosphere to its zenith. As we approached to take a look, the focal point of this exuberant celebration turned out to be three burly men who hadn't been seen for a long time, the three tyrants of Liaodong. Are we heroes, however, considering the situation in front of them? These three guys were obviously a bit bewildered. Could it be related to what happened last night? What on earth was going on? Let's start with the three tyrants of Liaodong and their encounter from yesterday. The story goes that the three tyrants of Liaodong, after leaving Liu Fengyi and the others, ventured deep into the mountains, but it turned out they got lost, and they wandered around in the mountains for several days. So hungry, I need water. These past few days had taken a toll on the three of them. They were not only tired and exhausted, but also starving to the point that their bellies were stuck to their backs. If we don't find water soon, we'll die. Look, quick, look. Yesterday, the three of them emerged from a dense forest, utterly exhausted and nearly on the brink of collapse. However, at that moment, the second guy suddenly let out a loud shout. A hot spring. It turned out that within this forest, there were several hot springs emitting hot steam. It's real, a hot spring. The three of them could hardly believe their eyes. It was like craving ice during a hailstorm, desiring a nap and falling headfirst into a warm bed. It was just like that. "Quick, let's jump in." The three of them hurriedly shed their clothes and jumped into the pool. These past few days of wandering in the woods had left them famished and weary. Now, soaking in this hot spring, they felt incredibly comfortable. "Oh," let out a fart, "I'll join in too." Oh, so comfortable, however, as the three of them relaxed. It was a sight to behold. Although it was comfortable, they weren't fools and had been wondering why this relatively small pool continued to supply hot water. "How come there's a hot spring here? And the water is so hot. I didn't feel any spring under us. It must be an intermittent spring." Not to mention, second guy was thoughtful. He had heard before that this kind of underground hot spring was either a spring head or an intermittent spring that gushed every once in a while. Just as second guy finished speaking, the three of them immediately froze. Sure enough, the gushing of the intermittent spring was too violent. A massive column of water rapidly surged out, enveloping the entire pool in a scalding rain. "Damn, I'm getting scalded to death. Can't you block it for me?" After the gushing, the pool temporarily dried up, and they had to wait for the next surge to fill it again. This time, the three tyrants of Liaodong were stark naked and exposed. "Don't go. There will be more water later. We don't know you. Are you shameless enough to put on clothes? Why aren't you mentioning us?" Fortunately, they had finished bathing. The three of them hurriedly left the hot spring, preparing to find a place to dry their clothes. "Let's go find a place to dry our clothes. Hey, there's a rundown temple up ahead. Come on, let's hide there." Meanwhile, a tragedy was unfolding in the village below. A monster had invaded the village, killing anyone it encountered. It had already knocked down over a dozen people. Although there were plenty of men guarding the village, they were no match for this monster. It was a wild boar demon, unbelievably enormous, resembling an elephant in size, and exceedingly ferocious. It rampaged through the village, injuring people and demolishing houses. The violent wild boar demon was considered invincible in the eyes of the ordinary villagers. Just looking at its terrifying appearance made people's legs tremble. "Hand over the treasure map, and I won't slaughter the village. I'll come to collect it after daybreak." As the villagers were subdued, the wild boar demon suddenly transformed into a human form. "If you don't hand it over, I'll go on a killing spree." With this statement, the villagers realized he had been sent by someone. Rumors had been circulating that there was a treasure map in the village, and incidents of harassment for it had occurred before. Where could there be a treasure map in the village? We will resist him to the end. Resist to the end. But there really wasn't any treasure map in the village. The villagers had no choice but to organize themselves again to fight the wild boar demon to the end. Regarding that wild boar demon, he didn't actually want to leave just now. It was because he had killed too many tonight, and he was afraid that divine retribution was imminent. At this point, he was also somewhat frightened. However, he had come prepared, having scouted the area earlier and identified a mountain temple nearby. The temple had a solemn and dignified deity statue that could temporarily ward off divine punishment. This was a common method used by wild immortals in the mountains to evade divine retribution. They would typically hide under the statue to escape heavenly punishment. The wild boar demon entered the temple and sat down at the feet of the deity statue. He felt much relieved, thinking that no matter how great the heavenly retribution, it couldn't strike the deity statue. But this time, he was indeed mistaken. Shortly after sitting down, a thunderous explosion from above shattered the temple's roof. This frightened the wild boar demon, and he quickly looked up. Sure enough, the roof had been blown open. He had some doubts and immediately turned his gaze to the deity statue. Whose filthy underwear is this? However, when he looked, it nearly twisted his nose. 3 colorful and flowery pairs of underwear were hanging on the deity statue. Wasn't this impurity defiling the statue's divine power? "What are you yelling about, you pervert who stole underwear?" As soon as the wild boar demon spoke, 3 butt-naked old men emerged from behind the statue, covering their essential parts and challenging him. "I'll kill you." This further infuriated the wild boar demon, and he howled as if he was about to charge and bite these 3 men to death. But to his surprise, the thunder from above showed no mercy and gave him no chance. Suddenly, a tremendous thunderbolt struck down, directly hitting the wild boar demon. This once successfully cultivated demon, who had strayed onto the wrong path, was turned into charcoal by the divine thunder. The small temple was also destroyed by the divine thunder at the same time.